week in detail. We have been listening, and I think obviously the streetlight issue alone shows how much this authority is actually committed to listening. Primarily with the government cuts and this wretched austerity that's being forced upon us, protecting services and protecting employment have been uppermost in mind. And in putting this budget together, those things have obviously had priority. The other thing which was discussed in detail at the last meeting, which my apologies, was the discretionary fund. We were left up in the air when we took over the administration of this authority. There was no future for the playhouse, there was no future for the paddling pools. Very unclear in terms of the future of many of the discretionary services. Now they're actually guaranteed up until 2019. There's a lot of forward planning, and in those circumstances, particularly with the playhouse, a lot of the plans can actually start to be made to actually have ongoing funding. With regards to the rents, I'm sure Rod can comment, but we're having the lowest rent increase for quite some time, accompanied with actually the most detailed ability to actually do up many of our houses in the next 2 years, which in a sense had been put on the back burner. And the last thing I'd like to say, I agree with everybody else that's been saying this, it's been very helpful of Simon and his team in helping put together this rather important budget this year, because so much rests on the general election chairperson. Whether in fact local authorities have got a future. When I was at the police committee this afternoon, we were seeing out of a budget of 250 million, a projection of 79 million pounds being cut from their budget. And equally with this authority, it's almost like Armageddon. It will actually be a completely different authority if we want to go back to the austerity of the 1930s that the Tories planned for us. So hopefully this will be one of the last budgets in terms of what we've got to look at in this very drastic way, although obviously I don't deny that whatever party is in control, some economies will have to be made. But at the end of the day, people are being impoverished out there from what the bankers caused. And at the end of the day, local authorities like Harlow need to protect the poorest people. When I go to Essex, what do I find? I find condemnation of the poorest of their workers and an absolute point-blank refusal by the Tories at Essex County Council to pay the living wage. And it would only cost £160,000 to pay the living wage to Essex County Council employees, but the leader of Essex County Council refuses point-blank to do so. Tories impoverish people, they've been impoverishing people, their incomes have been reduced. And this authority, hopefully, will have a better prospect this time next year of trying to alleviate some of
priorities were around parks, open spaces and street cleaning. We're protecting spending in those areas, and indeed there'll be some further improvement in those based on reinvesting efficiency savings from a clear contract to build on a small improvement that's made at the back end of the growing season of last year. This includes employing additional staff and new grass cutting machinery. In terms of social behaviour, waste and recycling, again we've protected spending in those areas. The third key area of priority was around regeneration and economic development. We're creating a specific £1 million regeneration fund to look at regeneration of the town centre in particular, supplemented by additional officer resource to drive that forward in a similar way, hopefully, that Andrew Bradley was driving forward the enterprise zone. I'm not pretending that £1 million is going to regenerate the north of the town centre. It's not about that, it's about getting technical work done, it's about possibly buying strategic assets in there, and I expect that this fund will be supplemented from other windfall income as time goes on. And then of course, turning the streetlights back on, responding to the very strong wishes of the people of Harlow. That's been expressed in a number of ways, whether that's petitions, whether it's budget consultation itself, whether it's the survey that was done across Essex. About more than half of people did an independent study about what local people wanted in terms of improving the infrastructure of Harlow, and unprompted, done by an independent company, streetlights was the number 3 on that list. So that's responding to a very strong sphere. And in addition to that, and finally, of course, we are extending our commitment to living wage in terms of the cleaning contract that was awarded a month or so ago, and of course providing medium-term stability to the Spectrum Services Fund, as Mike has said, until 2019 for the Playhouse, Festival and Paddling Pool, in addition to providing additional funding for the museum and the
Page 63, paragraph 3, item 2, support the voluntary and community sector in making funding applications and developing its capacity. What I'd like to ask is, who's actually going to do this work for us?
A lot of our team, the community team, are already doing this to support people like Rainbow. We've helped over the past couple of years, for example, Rainbow Services bringing different funding with some other of the charity and community groups. It's not extra people, just as a team is at the moment, and to carry on, obviously being a priority. Realistically, we can't fund everything as a council we'd like to, but we'll try and work in partnership where we can, try and help and aid, especially in difficult funding bits.
On the community wellbeing, page 53 on Appendix F, medium-term financial strategy. And the question I'd like to ask is, it says community wellbeing other, and we're talking about 274,000. Could somebody explain to me what the other is?
Those various items you're bundling together. On the MTFS, page 77, paragraph 29.3, talking about the risk to business rates and £204,000, which is also included as a change in 15-16 as part of the budget gap on table 1, page 84. Because it's included on table 1, does that mean we know there will be a deficit of that sum in 15-16?
So lots of things might change, things like we're concerned, what's that warehouse? It's Comment. We're particularly concerned about the receivership at Comment at the moment. They are really playing about with us. They're actually putting in small units, temporary units. They're refusing basically to pay a business rate, and that's quite a significant amount of money. Sadly, the Poundland warehouse has not quite come online yet, but I think that's due very shortly. So there are some imponderables, but hopefully this is the most pessimistic picture. Hopefully some of those obstacles will be overcome.
Yeah, well, so it might be less than that.
May not happen, but yeah, okay. If I can continue, Chair. On the HRA, page 102 of the main pack, we're looking at the growth item to upgrade IT and so forth in housing, to implement a responsive repairs module. Does this mean there is a corresponding saving in the annual service charge from here?
The appetite and aspiration to prepare ourselves for the new work packages in 2017. With IT, that allows us to start ordering responsive repairs on the council system rather than a contracted system. At this stage, there is no intention to reduce the annual service charge for that item.
Just a couple of comments, actually, rather than questions. Just working my way through. Page 127, paragraph 32. Just to acknowledge the expenditure of £19,000 on restoring and refurbishing the war memorials as part of the First World War remembrance. That was a good example of where the council was showing community leadership, and there was cross-party support and working together for the benefit of the town. And equally on page 128, paragraph 39, to recognise the increase in disabled facilities grant to the private sector, enabling many more people to have a better quality of life in their own homes. And I'm just glad that we're able to achieve that. I've found a stray page at the start of the supplementary pack, page 1, which has general fund parameters. I'm not quite sure exactly where it belongs. I'm assuming it's part of the MTFS, but there we are, it's page 1. And in there, it's looking at the parameters and where they're changing in 15-16 onwards. And right at the bottom of that page, we're looking at investment interest rates. Will be reviewed during the budget process, but likely to reduce. Some of us attended a presentation last night from our corporate advisors with some options as to how we can move forward, particularly with regard to reducing risk and possibly earning income. And, and there is a specific mention in the main report on page 139, paragraph 6, where it says we are looking to diversify and then also to secure other investment products. So what I'm trying to get at is this Australia report says there's nothing like to happen apart from going downwards, but elsewhere in the bundle it says we probably will be looking at something, and hopefully things will improve.
Other members, if they want the minutiae of our investment programme. But we're very much in the middle of the road. We're safe, we're performing well, it's nearly 0.5%. I was at the police authority this afternoon to hear that they actually have a return of 1%. And the reasons, it does really depend upon the safeness of the investment, as you heard last night, and the risk that you take. And at the moment, the officers are inclined to actually err on the side of caution. It is public money, but what we heard last night, there seems to be some mileage in possibly short-term investments of slightly better than that. But I think interest rates will go up in the next year, and clearly we need to actually only invest for the short term, simply because it's pointless actually making some long-term commitments when interest rates are so low.
So I just try to clarify whether, well, it's like to reduce to circa 0.49%. Yes. So as I say, that seems to indicate we're adopting the status quo.
That's our investments in the past are up for renewal. So obviously we're not getting so much money on them, whereas historically we were actually getting more money in the past. So it's inevitable that there will be a fall on what we've actually been, as much as interest rates then start going up again, we could actually then start projecting an increase in our investments.
Again, on the supplementary agenda, which is the actual medium-term financial strategy itself, on page 6, on 1.9, which says the implemented HRA reserve must be maintained at or above a minimum level of 2.5 million. But if we go to paragraph 47 of the main HRA report on page 104, paragraph 47 on page 104, it says that the recommended minimum HRA working balance should be increased from 2.695 to 2.727 million to reflect general increases in inflation. So is the minimum balance 2.5 million or 2.5 million plus inflation? Because certainly in previous years it has been in inflation linked. So if that's what's actually happening, why not update the MTFS? Or why have sort of two different, the MTFS sort of sets the rules, but the HRA seems to be following a different rule.
Not a problem, Chair. Not a problem.
It's a recommendation so it says 2.5 million or above, and the above is, in this particular case, recommendation to 2.7 million. Quite a significant problem.
As the MTFS says, or you are actually going to inflation link it and increase it year on year, because the HRA report says it's being increased to reflect general increases in inflation. Now, the general fund has a minimum balance of 2.5 million, and that's staying at 2.5 million or above. and that will jog along as time goes by. You know, if you're going to have some rules and some guidance, we'll have some rules and some guidance. But if not, just ignore it.